What's up guys, Tommy Bowyer here from Movie Rewind, and today we will be reviewing Ant-Man and the Wasp, the next installment in the Marvel movies, coming just after the critically and financial success which was Avengers Infinity War. The movie stars Paul Rudd, Evageline Lilly, Michael Douglas and Laurence Fishburne, as well as other actors and actresses, and it was released in 2018, and yeah, it's one of Marvel's worst ones. So the movie is set in between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War, and it follows Paul Rudd, who portrays Scott Lang / Ant-Man, and it follows him as he's trying to be a good father to his daughter, as well as remain low because he can no longer be a superhero anymore. And while that's all happening, he ends up hooking up once again with Hank Pym and his daughter, and his daughter has taken on the alter ego the Wasp and has been given wings and blasters and the shrink technology in which Ant-Man has. And this movie is not very good. It really isn't. It feels like a time waster. I don't know. I mean, we all knew when 2015's Ant-Man was released that there had been a lot of problems. They'd fired a director and they hired a new one. However, the studio managed to pull it off and Ant-Man turned into an enjoyable heist movie. Although with this one, I kind of have to think, how much of the first movie was the director which was fired and how much of it was the new director? Because if the new director had full creative control over Ant-Man and the Wasp, then maybe he needs to be fired. Because this is a very boring and underwhelming movie. And I'm just going to explain a couple of points for the reasons why I think that this is one of Marvel's worst movies that they have released in this entire history of the MCU. Okay, so first off, every hero is only as good as its villain. And remember before Phase 3, when Marvel had a really bad villain problem? Well, surprisingly in Phase 3 they fixed it. We've had some really good villains. However, this villain, I believe she's called the Ghost, is so bad. There's just no real character development to her whatsoever. They try and make her, a tragic hero, a tragic villain. It really doesn't work though, because there's just no presence. I think a villain is supposed to have a presence when they're on the screen. They're supposed to either make you hate them, or they're supposed to make you kind of understand them and understand why they're doing what they're doing. This villain, while you can understand what she's doing, there's just no presence there. She's just really underwhelming. And that goes for a lot of the characters in this movie. Laurence Fishburne's character, he was just boring. I felt like Laurence Fishburne was kind of just phoning it in, which is really bad because he's quite a good actor. So you think they would make his character, a bit more involved. And as for the other actors, they portray the parts well and they're putting in good performances. However, the script is just not up to standard, so you're letting down all these actors because the script is just... It's not like it's all over the place, it's not complex or a mess, it's just a really boring story. They needed to work on the script. That's what they needed to do. They needed to stop throwing loads of jokes in and try and work on the scripts. That's what we've done. We've ended up with another Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where they just shove a load of jokes in and forget about the story as a whole. As I've already stated, the humour, which is usually on point in most Marvel movies, it's just not very good here. I remember, and some of the jokes do get a laugh. However, for every joke which gets a laugh, there's always one that when it was played out in the cinema, everyone was kind of sitting there kind of like, oh, I'm supposed to be laughing. No one really wanted to laugh because the jokes just... they seem a bit immature. They seem, I don't know, they're not on point. And for most Marvel movies, the jokes are on point. And I did talk about this with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, whereby the humour just gets a bit out of control because you think you've just got characters who are only characterised as funny. For example, Ant-Man in Captain America Civil War was characterised as the funny one. So in Ant-Man and the Wasp, instead of developing his character, they just keep him as the funny one. So you end up with this character who has already had his own solo movie and been in another Marvel movie, and he's still just the funny one without no real character development whatsoever. He doesn't really go through anything here. And in the end, and this is a spoiler, all the characters get what they want, which you could say is a feel-good movie. However, it's not, because all the characters get what they want, so you end all of their story arcs there, so you've got nowhere to go in the sequel. Now, I don't know if they're planning a sequel to Ant-Man and the Wasp. I don't see how they can, really, because all of the characters' story arcs have ended here. That's like Iron Man finding out in the first Iron Man movie that Bucky killed his father. It just ends all of that story arc, so you wouldn't have any other movies because it's all been resolved in that movie. So I don't know, it's trying to go for a feel-good atmosphere, although it doesn't really work because you've just ended all the story arcs that every character has. Therefore, you undermine the character as a whole. Now, I know that some people are probably going to say that the problem with Ant-Man and the Wasp is it just came after Avengers Infinity War. So of course people are going to hate it because it is not up to that standards. And no, that is not why I hate Ant-Man and the Wasp. The reason I hate Ant-Man and the Wasp is because instead of actually trying, the studio has just said, okay, we need to get this character from point A to point B. We can make a movie about that, and which is fine, you could have done that. However, the studio just make one of the most phoned in movies ever. It's just like, okay, we don't really care about the story, we don't really care about the characters, all we want is to get this guy from there to there. So I think that's the problem I have with this movie, because it is, oh my god, it has just been made for one purpose. It's just been made for one purpose, and that is the problem. You can tell no one's really interested in this movie as a whole. I mean, just look at the marketing. Marvel have hardly marketed this movie compared not just to Avengers Infinity War, but any of the other Marvel movies. This movie's just not been marketed properly because no one really cares about it. No one at Marvel cares. Although I care because I am a Marvel fan and I go and see these movies because I hope that they are all of a high standard. And sorry Marvel, this is a bad movie. And it's close, it sounds bad, it is close to DC standards. Which, you know, if any of you hate me for that, then fair enough, I'm allowed my own opinion. And this movie just did nothing. It played everything safe. It just followed the Marvel formula. It has a very underwhelming villain. It's just, oh. Thank God Infinity War was good. Because if this was the only Marvel movie brought out this year, it would be a disappointing year for Marvel. Let me tell you that right now. So in conclusion, Ant-Man and the Wasp is a very underwhelming Marvel movie. While some people might state that because of the criteria of Black Panther and Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp is just not going to be able to keep up. However, I think Ant-Man and the Wasp is just not a very good movie. While the acting is good, the storyline is just ridiculous, and the villain, well, if you can call it a villain, is just so underdeveloped that, you know what, you could have just had an unnamed thug in the role instead. And that's why Ant-Man and the Wasp gets a well-deserved 5 out of 10. And this is probably my least favourite Marvel movie now. It really is. I even enjoy For the Dark World better than this, which is saying something. Sorry, Marvel. I loved Infinity War. However, this is... it's just a filler. It really, really is. Thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed my Ant-Man and the Wasp movie review. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. And remember, this review is my personal opinion. I do nothing to make money off YouTube. I just put it out because it's my personal opinion. So if you have a different personal opinion, then just write it down in the comments and I will have a look at it and see whether that changes my mind. You know, it could. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one. See ya!